Welcome into Tuesday, everyone. I know it has been a little while since we did a Tuesday session. Many of you probably remember quite a few times I did my Tuesday tips for parents from the Duke Cancer Center, because I would be there with my mom while she was having treatments, procedures, or testing or whatever. So that you know, my mom did pass away. So I didn't do them for a while I was taking care of her. It was a bit much. So no real excuse. It's just that's what happened. So I did want you to know that that's the reason we didn't do them for a while. But I'm back now, so you'll start seeing me again on every Tuesday, good or bad. You're going to see me every Tuesday. So today what I wanted to talk about was self-actualization in kids and teens. It's January. Everybody makes New Year's resolutions. We talked, one of the very last ones I did before I started taking care of Mom a little bit more, was we talked about helping kids to set goals and how we can do that and make the goals realistic for them, age appropriate for them. So I thought it would be really good as we're coming into the new year, for those of you who had an opportunity to talk to your kids or your teens about goals that they have for this year, whether you call them New Year's resolutions, or you just call them goals, or you just sat down and said, hey, what's important to you? Let's talk about it. Regardless, let's talk about going to the next step of self-actualization. It's a little bit of a more in-depth topic. And one of the things that we need to remember as parents is we have to be on that path ourselves of trying to get to a point of self-actualization. And as we go through it, we can help guide our children, our kids, our teens through the process. Sometimes they just don't have the logical reasoning skills to go through the whole process and get to the point of self-actualization. But just with some guidance and some help and some goal setting and some positive enforcement from parents, they can definitely get there. So what I'm doing today, for those of you who have read the article that's on there, if not, maybe you can go back and take a look at it, is we are using Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I just think it really explains and helps to break down just a little bit how we can help our kids to get through this. So if you're interested in the specific research that I found, you can comment below or you can contact us here. I'm more than happy to send that to you. It is very in-depth and it explains Maslow's research from very beginning to very end and the different phases that it went through. I'm just going to group it together just a little bit. I'm going to group it together as much as possible just to make it very general. So one of the things that we want to do is, again, we want to help our kids move to a higher sense of being. And in order to do that, we have to look at ourselves and we have to look at our kids and help them figure out where they are. A lot of times as parents or teachers or coaches or whatever we may be, we want to look at deficiencies. We want to look at all of the negative aspects, what they can't do, where their weaknesses are, what are they failing in, and focus on that and try to make that better. Yet there is another approach, and we've talked about this many times, as pointing out the positive things, prompting positive or good behavior. We've talked about lots of different articles about this, but we want to take what's good and we want to build on it. We want to use that to build the child's confidence, to build them up, to let them know how great they are in that area, because then there will be similar areas to it that they're also going to be good in, they're going to excel in. As they're excelling in certain areas, it's a very natural hand in hand to be able to then throw in a few things that maybe is a weak point for them and let them work on it, because they've built up their confidence so much in all these other areas. It's not as intimidating to them to tackle a weakness. So we want to take that, and in doing that, we have a hierarchy of needs. There's a couple of different pyramids that you may be able to find, because Maslow sort of edited his over time and expanded it some, but I'm going to use just the more simple version. Okay, it's in a triangle form here, but we're going to talk about, does it really have to be in a step? So every person has lower needs, okay, that are down here that need to be met. Okay, so we have psychological needs. All right, what are our psychological needs? You know, they are, psychological, physiological, I'm sorry. So it's like food, water, being taken care of. We have safety needs. So just having a sense of being safe with who you're around. Having a sense of being able to move from place to place in safety, be it an emotional sense or a physical sense. Okay, love and belonging. We all want friends. We need intimate relationships. We need people who care about us, and we need to know that. We have esteem. Esteem is a little bit interesting because there's two parts to it. There's sort of that self-esteem part of it, our self. What do we think of ourselves? What is our esteem for ourselves? And then there's the part of others. What do others think about us? We want the respect and the inclusion from others. Then we move in up here at the very top to the self-actualization. Achieving our goals, achieving our full potential, feeling like we are self-fulfilled, that we have reached a point that we are accomplished. We have done something. We have left our legacy. We have left all of these different things. Now, the pyramid, which was Maslow's original put together, the way that he put it together, it can be very rigid because it almost looks like, okay, we have to meet these lower needs. So you have to meet this one and then this one, and you have to go up in a stair step. Okay, we do have to meet needs in one area where we feel like we are lacking in some of these in order to move to another. For example, physiological needs, some of these lower needs, if we are hungry, if we are cold, if we don't have shelter, it is very, very difficult to work on anything else while those are unmet. So that is something that is a need that really you do need to meet in order to go on to anything else. Okay, it's not necessarily that you have to, but most people are not going to move into anything else if they're here. Sort of the same thing with safety. If you're feeling unsafe, either emotionally, psychologically, even physically, it may be more difficult to move into some other areas. However, this is not an all or nothing. Okay, I like to think of it personally as more of a circle. So if we have a circle, and then we take it and chop it into the different areas. A circle, to me, is just easier to imagine that we can move back and forth between these. Okay, self-actualization is still our ultimate goal, so it's still the top. But if we put it in a circle in conjunction with other things, it helps us to realize that we may move back and forth between some of these. Some of these, as we're moving along, can be set back by things. If we're adults, you know, divorce, losing a job, losing a home, you know, a fire, anything like that. With kids, some of the same things. If there's a fire, a tornado, some sort of natural disaster, that's going to be the same as in an adult. But with a child, what could be as devastating to them? Losing their best friend. Whether it's they get into a fight and they're no longer best friends, or this best friend went over here to this one. Maybe they didn't make some sort of a team, a football team, a cheerleader team, a dance team, a martial arts team, whatever it may be, they didn't make something. That's just as devastating for them. So if you're thinking circle or pyramid, you know, you're working to the next level, the next, boom, something happens. You may slide to a different level. You may slide down to a more basic level. You may slide from here. Maybe you're up here in self-actualization and something major happens, and maybe it affects your esteem, and you come back down here to love and belonging. Or you come back around this way. You're going this way and you come back around this way. So regardless, if we just think of this and we try to positively guide our kids through this and talk to them about these different things, find out, just ask questions and try to find out where you think they are so that you can help them navigate either this pyramid up and down or the circle that goes around. And something very, very important to remember is that not all kids are the same. So not every child, even if they're siblings, not every child is going to be at the same place at the same time. So as you are helping your kids to get into different activities, be it a sport activity, an academic activity, whatever it may be, talk to the coaches, the teachers, the instructors, whoever it is. Find out, do they understand this about kids? And it may not be, you may not go up and go, hey, do you know Maslow's hierarchy of needs? And they may look at you and say, what? But just have a conversation. Find out, do they realize this about kids? That they're going back and forth through all these stages. All kids are not going to be the same. One kid may have a huge need for accomplishment. So they really have a need for a lot of high fives and a lot of, that was really great. You're doing great here. You're great at this. Oh, guess what? Look, I just saw you do this and you were really good at this. So they have that need for a sense of accomplishment. However, this child over here may feel very accomplished, but maybe they don't have a sense of belonging. Maybe they really need a lot of friendships. Maybe they need that sense of inclusion. So you have to deal with that very differently. Even though it's one team, it's one class, it's one whatever it may be, is that person, that adult who's responsible for helping these kids through that, do they realize how to deal with different kids within one activity and help push them along so that they can become to a point of self-actualization? Hopefully we get to this point many times in life. We want to feel accomplished and like we have done what we set out to do many, many times in life. And sometimes the longer we can stay in the self-actualization part, the more we can help bring others along with us. So we have lots of people there around us in our circle of self-actualization so that if we slip somewhere else because of something happening, there's lots of people to also pull us along. One other thing that I found to be a little bit interesting, and again, if you would like to see these, just give me a call, comment below, anything, is that there are 15 characteristics of self-actualizers. Now, obviously, people who are in a state of self-actualization are not going to display all 15 of these characteristics, but they would have a majority of them. So sometimes it just gives you a different perspective if you see some of these characteristics in the way people navigate through them. So if you're interested in it, again, just let me know. I'm more than happy to send that over. Now, I do want to point out that Maslow's research was what we would consider qualitative research versus quantitative. Qualitative meaning he researched, if I remember correctly, I think it was 18 people. And those 18 people he researched very, very, very deeply. So did a lot of in-depth research and studies on these 18 people versus most of the time when we think of research and we hear of research these days and clinical trials and all these things we hear on TV, it's quantitative. So it's how many people did you study? A lot of studies and research today study hundreds or thousands of people before they make determinations. So it's just a different approach, but I did just want to point that out so that you are aware of that. Again, I hope this has been helpful. I hope it helps you to take yourself and your child through 2020, trying to be as self-actualized as possible for that feeling of accomplishment and that you've really gotten there and achieved. Again, it just takes that village, and we hope that we can be a part of your village, and we appreciate you tuning in with us today to just listen up and let us be as much help as possible. If you have topics that you want to hear, topics that you want to think about, ask questions about, feel free to comment below or give us a call or email here. Next week, we will be talking about to make or not to make. So you'll have to tune in to see what that topic is actually going to be about. See you next Tuesday.